Multiple reports are saying that the USA and Russia have devised a 28-point peace plan to end the war in Ukraine. It involves terms that require Ukraine to give up land, to reduce its military by half, and never allow foreign troops on its territory. European leaders have meanwhile been meeting in Brussels, and the French Foreign Minister had this to say.
Discussions should start with a ceasefire on the contact line that allow for negotiation on the question of territories, on the question of security guarantees. We have said that, the US have said that, President Trump has said that, and Ukrainians are ready for this. The only obstacle to such ordered discussions so far is Vladimir Putin.
It's the French Foreign Minister speaking in Brussels a short while ago. Now, I can welcome to the programme Professor Phillips O'Brien, who's a Professor of Strategic Studies at St Andrews University. Hello to you, Professor.
How are you doing, John?
I am well. Thank you for coming on the show. Really keen to hear your views, Professor, because it is, isn't it, a safe bet? It's a certain bet that Ukraine's leaders will oppose what this latest deal seems to be. And it's hard to blame them, isn't it, given what they're fighting for and the sacrifices that they've had to make.
It's a terrible deal for Ukraine. I mean, it's basically the Russian deal, which the U.S. government has agreed to. So Russia gets almost everything it wants and gives up almost nothing. The issue, and the Ukrainians will not want this deal under almost any circumstances. It's hard to see how Ukraine could exist as an independent country if this deal goes through. The problem that Ukraine will face is we don't know what the European reaction will be. The European states are going to have to, at this point, if the U.S. is very serious about this deal, and Trump has endorsed it, if the U.S. is serious about this deal and tries to impose it, then European states are either going to have to stand up for Ukraine and say, no, we'll back you if you turn it down, or put pressure on Ukraine to accept it or a version close to it. So we would reach a real crunch point if that happens. We're not there yet, but this is a terrible deal for Ukraine.
Is it conceivable that Ukraine could be compelled to accept the deal? We don't have the detail of the deal. In a sense, we're going by seemingly well-informed but partial reports. But the idea of handing over unconquered Ukrainian territory in the east of Ukraine to Russia, even, as one report suggests, under some form of land lease, that would amount, in the view of Ukraine, and objectively, it would amount to a form of surrender.
Well, it certainly would amount to the United States taking Vladimir Putin's side in the war against Ukraine. So it would be the United States saying, we are going to compel you, Ukraine, a democracy, to hand over land to a dictatorship, land that dictatorship has not conquered, because we believe that is the best way to get out of the war. So, I mean, that's what it represents. The key thing that it represents is what it means for the U.S. government at present and what the U.S. government is prioritizing. And clearly, the U.S. government is prioritizing its relationship with Russia over its relationship with Ukraine and Europe. Now, they might not be able to get that, but that is the reality.
And how do you analyze that? I mean, just in the last, couple of days, we saw President Trump pretty clearly placing the value of the Saudi Arabian relationship with the United States, maybe as an economic partner, above any consideration of morality or principle. The murder of a Saudi journalist came up, we saw, with pretty spectacular effects in the Oval Office. Is it your view that the president's approach to Russia is based on some comparable calculation?
It's his relationship with everyone. He doesn't care about democratic states or free states. They're almost, in his mind, weak states. He likes dealing with dictators and authoritarians. That is where he's comfortable. That is who he praises. He praises them all the time. And he looks down on European democracies, who he considers weak and soft. And Europeans are kidding themselves if they think Trump actually likes them or respects them. He would rather have a deal with Putin. Putin is the kind of leader he admires and he wants to work with, not Zelensky.
President Trump does seem to believe, doesn't he, Professor, that Russia in the Ukraine war is a relentless and unbeatable enemy.
Yeah.
To what extent do you believe that to be true?
Well, it's not true, but it's basically the United States is not. I mean, what he has done since he's become president is basically get the United States out of weaponing, providing support to Ukraine. They've sold a small amount of weapon, $2 billion in weapons since he's been president. The Biden administration gave $130 billion. So what Trump has done is basically pulled the U.S. out, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if Ukraine gets no support from the United States, it's going to be in a harder position. Europeans have stepped up a little, but a lot are not. Ukraine can win this war, but it has to be helped to win it. And right now, neither the U.S. or the Europeans seem willing to do that.
It does seem clear, though, lastly, Professor, from all that you hear of the Ukrainian leadership, and we all are aware now that the Ukrainian political leadership is in a stew in Kyiv. There's a corruption row going on, which will be clouding the thinking of policymakers there. But from what you hear from pretty much all of them, they will fight to the last man. They will fight with pointed sticks if weapons are denied. This will not end in a quick capitulation by Ukraine. It can only drag on, surely.
Well, they'll want to. Again, there becomes a question of what you can do and what you want to do. They will want to fight, but say if European states say to them, we are not going to back you at all, then they might have to take a very bad deal. So a lot of this will come down to how European states react if indeed President Trump tries to foist this plan. Okay. It will come down to Europe.
And we will watch how that story develops, because it's developing now, as it were, in real time. Professor Phillips O'Brien from St Andrews University, thank you so much. I'm going to be talking very soon to the former high-ranking American commander and head of the CIA, General David Petraeus. This is Times Radio.
The pressure must be on the aggressor, not on the victim. Rewarding aggression will only invite more of it. The EU has a very clear two-point plan. First, weaken Russia. Second, support Ukraine. Going after Russia's shadow fleet remains a priority, and we had a very intensive discussions about what we can do more. The EU has already sanctioned over 550 ships, and we have conducted extensive diplomatic talks with flag states that register vessels. Now we aim to have pre-boarding agreements with these states. This is a legal way for one party to board and search a vessel of another country. Slowing down the shadow fleet costs Russia revenues. This is why we will work on more sanctions on shadow fleet, both vessels as well as enablers. Many ministers also raised the financial support for Ukraine. The reparations loan is the most clear-cut way to sustain Ukraine's defense. It is always also the way to show Russia that time is not on their side. Supporting Ukraine is a bargain compared to the cost of Russian victory.